Hey, it's Doug Atkinson here at Identiverse 2018 in Boston, and we are with Sarah Squire, Senior Technical Architect from Ping Identity. Thanks for being
Hi.
here.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here because we've been talking to a lot of people today, and they've been very interesting conversations, but actually what we wanted to talk to you about is really something even more interesting than that, which is kind of the future or moreover kind of the innovation that's happening within identity management. So we know a lot and we cover a lot at Solutions Review around the kind of solution providers and the kind of main solution offerings that enterprises are availing themselves of, and certainly there are a lot of sales folks right across the way there that are presenting those
They can
stories.
tell you about that, yeah.
But what we really want to know is kind of what are some of the neat things that you're thinking about at Ping that people might not know are potentially possible in the near future?
Absolutely. So my job is imagining what Ping could be doing 5 to 10 years from now. So when we
Right.
solve the problems that we're working on today, what are we going to tell our developers to go build?
We
So-
need those things.
Absolutely.
Roadmaps.
One of the things that we're working on is a mobile payment system. So right now you can pay at Starbucks using your phone, right? You open up the Starbucks app, it gives you a barcode, you scan it at the register, and you're on your way. There's no credit card involved, there's no cash involved, right?
Sure.
And what we would love to see, and what we're working on with a few different banks, is a system where you open up your banking application on your mobile phone and it gives you a barcode that you can then scan at a point of sale of any merchant, so that you can pay without having to carry a credit card with you.
Now, is this similar to what Apple's trying to do with their kind of iPay? But it's different.
It's a little bit different. So the merchant in this case would not have to register with a large tech company like Apple or Google, which would take a cut of the payment.
Right.
In this
Right.
case, the payment would be direct from the bank to the merchant, so it's more efficient in that sense.
Well, and more interesting to the merchant.
Absolutely.
Which, being a merchant, sometimes we're much more interested in that as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're concerned about is the privacy implications of something like this. So when people pay with a credit card, merchants they not only have the legal name of the person, but they can then track that person and they can track all of their purchases regardless of whether they're online or in the store. If you were to pay with a mobile payment on your phone, it's possible to build the standard in a way, and we would like to see the standard built in a way where you use a one-time identifier for yourself, so that when you're buying one thing, you look like a completely different person than when you come in and buy the next thing, so that they can't correlate your purchases and figure out where you're going, what you're buying, what you're doing. Because that's your personal information, and you should decide whether and when you want to share that.
Well, and that's really part of the challenge when you're pushing innovative thoughts like this, is how do you get to a standard that everybody can kind of organize around while you're still driving this innovation?
Absolutely. So we are heavily involved in open standards communities, and we think it's part of our duty to make sure that those standards allow people to be anonymous, allow privacy to be preserved, because there are a lot of people who would love to see a world where everyone is tracked.
Well, and that's the other balance point, right? Is how do you give people this kind of frictionless interface to be able to make purchases while still maintaining a level of security for them that protects their identity and their personal information.
That's something we always keep in mind. If it's not easy for users to do, they won't do it. So we love solutions where the solution that we come up with is both easier and more secure. So something like a YubiKey, are you familiar with those? The authentication devices that,
Right.
that have a private key on the device, and you just touch it, right? You
Right.
don't have to enter anything from your phone, you don't have to manually enter codes, you just touch the
Gas
device
stations have
and it
been using
provides a
this sort
second
of thing for-
factor. Right, so I keep mine on my earrings. These are YubiKey Nano 4s.
Look at that. Neat.
So when I log in the morning, it asks for my password, and then it tells me to input my YubiKey. So
Do you have
I
them
take
in
off
different
my
colors?
earring. I should get them. I should have YubiKey make different colors. I take off my earring, I put it in my USB drive, and I tap it, and that's how
incredible.
I log in.
That's
so,
great.
And that's an easy user experience, right?
Right.
It's easy and it's secure. So that's what we want all of our solutions to be.
So what else are we looking at? I mean, what else is happening that you're kind of thinking about in the future?
So a lot of states in the United States and a lot of nations nationally are looking at a digital ID card. So something you can have on your phone that will prove things about you. And one of the things we want to stay away from is the ID card model we have now, where if I sit down in a bar, I hand the bartender a plastic card that has my full legal name,
Right.
my home address,
A lot of
my
information.
height, my weight, my age, a lot of
Right.
things that's none of that person's business. They don't need to know that. All they need to know is that I'm over 21.
Exactly.
So you would think that would be a good problem to solve with APIs, right? So I sit down at the bar, the bartender does an API to the state of Washington. I'm from Seattle. So the bartender connects to an API with the state of Washington and says, hey, I've got Sarah Squire in front of me. Is she over 21? You would think that would be a good model, but then the state of Washington knows exactly where and when I'm drinking. And that's just too much information for them to crunch. They can't keep up with that.
Where will it end?
No. So what we would like to see is a piece of structured data like JSON or XML that's digitally signed by the state of Washington that just says, yes, the person who holds this public key, who has this picture, is over 21, signed by the state of Washington. They can use an API to check that is a valid key for the state of Washington, but the state of Washington doesn't know who they're checking on behalf of.
Right.
So it's secure without leaking any private information about you.
Well, it seems to me that it would also begin to protect the proprietor of the establishment as well, in that they have a certain credibility to the identification or the confirmation of your age.
Absolutely. So it's more secure and more privacy preserving, but there are legal barriers, right? Right now, it's not that they can't serve alcohol to people who are under 21, it's that they can't serve alcohol to people whose IDs they haven't checked. That is the actual law.
Right, exactly.
So there's going to be a legal hurdle to this new world as well. So it's not just technical challenges that we're dealing with.
That's interesting. That's a very interesting point. So these are really cool. I mean, this is kind of nice to kind of move outside of just enterprise solutions and think about how this is going to really affect the end user. Not even referring to the end user. People. It's going to
real people.
Impact people.
Imagine that.
Walking through life.
Yeah, and affect their daily lives, sitting down at bars, buying things at point of sale terminals, but also their online life. So we have a lot of people who are concerned about online harassment who say, everyone should go by their real names online. And obviously we don't like that. That's not privacy preserving.
Right.
But using the same sort of digital ID card that only shares certain things about you, you could say, I'm a human and I'm a citizen of the United States. And you could put that on your Twitter profile without revealing your real name. So you can prove cryptographically that you are not a Russian bot, but you can say whatever you honestly believe without having to attach your real name to it if you are a political dissident in Iran, for example, who might be punished for saying what you believe politically.
So we really have a couple of things at play. Obviously, culturally, the transformation that's happening with regard to how people behave online, and also just how comfortable they'll be online, and also this more technological element where you can now begin to enable that sort of cultural change.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be a very different world in 5 to 10 years.
Unbelievable. Well, it's already a very different world from 5 or 10 years ago. So
it is, yes.
Well, thanks very much for telling us about all this sort of thing. We've really enjoyed the show here. Ping is one of our favorite solution providers, and we're happy to have you join us.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Great.